people, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town.
Santa! Oh my God!
Hey, what's up everyone? It's Ryan here from The Y, and today we're gonna be taking a look at Elf. No doubt a Christmas classic. It's hard to believe that at one point in time, Will Ferrell feared the movie would ruin him. Cause honestly, he couldn't be any more perfect for the role of Buddy, as I can't think of anyone who plays a better man-child than Ferrell. On that note, let's get right into the video. Here's 30 facts you didn't know about Elf. After watching both Elf and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, it's hard not to spot the similarities between the two. You've got Santa's workshop, the elf costumes, the stop-motion animals, and even the snowman narrator. In fact, at one point in time, lawyers from New Line Cinema became extremely concerned that Favreau had stolen too much material and began saying things like this set piece has to go, and you're gonna have to change the color of Buddy's suit.
Son of a nutcracker!
And who knows how things might have turned out had the lawyers not found a saving grace. There was an error in Rudolph's copyright. See here how the copyright notice is dated MCL XIV or 1164 instead of what it should have been MCM LXIV or 1964. After realizing this, the lawyers knew the chances of a lawsuit were slim to none and allowed Favreau to include whatever he wanted, short of Rudolph himself. When screenwriter David Berenbaum first wrote the script back in 1993, Will Ferrell wasn't even a thought as he literally hadn't started his career yet. He did have someone in mind though, and that was Jim Carrey, and I can definitely see where he was going with that.
Does someone need a hug?
How about a hug?
Going by this shot of two elves chilling out in the break room, it looks like instead of coffee, they have a pitcher of syrup. Which got me thinking, while everyone thinks of Buddy as a terrible elf or having ADHD, the real cause of all that was probably his massive sugar intake. Just because he grew up around elves and thought of himself as one, doesn't mean his body processes sugar in the same way theirs does. I mean, it's kinda a miracle Buddy was still alive, much less functioning with how much he consumed every day. Although Elf really didn't have too many good deleted scenes, this one I love. It shows Buddy like a man against kids, playing hockey with his fellow elves and absolutely wrecking house. I can see why it didn't make it in though, as it's out of character for the innocent harmless Buddy to go on such a rampage.
Game, buddy. Thanks, Pom-Pom. Sorry about the shoulder.
As you might have guessed, pretty much all of Will Ferrell's over-the-top reactions were scripted.
He's on the naughty list.
No!
Yet there's one scene this didn't hold true for, specifically when Buddy's product testing the Jack-in-the-Box toys. Jon Favreau randomly set them off with the remote control. Believe it or not, Will Ferrell went into Elf with a bit of experience, as he previously worked as a mall Santa back in the early 90s. Struggling to make ends meet, Ferrell and fellow comedian Chris Kattan took to an outdoor mall in Pasadena, handed out candy canes, and spread the holiday cheer for about 5 weekends. The two went on to become SNL cast members and later starred together in A Night at the Roxbury. Santa Claus tells Buddy to watch out for 3 things in New York City. Don't eat the gum in the street. The Peep Show isn't about toys. And
There are like 30 Ray's pizzas. They all claim to be the original, but the real one's on 11.
And while it closed down in 2011, Ray's Pizza shows up again in another Jon Favreau movie, the original Iron Man. During the scene in which Buddy walks through the Lincoln Tunnel, people driving their cars were so surprised to see a 6'3" man wearing an elf costume that he actually caused a few minor fender benders. Buddy's first day in New York was actually the final bit of filming they did, and nearly all of it was unscripted. The shooting consisted of Favreau, Ferrell, and a cameraman driving around asking pedestrians if they wanted to make some quick cash by being extras, or in some cases to get an authentic reaction like with the fake Santa, filming first and asking permission later.
You did it! Congratulations! World's best cup of coffee.
According to Favreau, when he first signed on to Elf, the screenplay was nothing like the version we're familiar with today. Made more for adults and rated PG-13, the original script was darker in a multitude of ways, including a less innocent Buddy, elves who bullied him, and an ending with magic dust getting the reindeer to fly instead of the Christmas spirit.
So be good for goodness sake.
Because Peter Billingsley, or Ralphie from A Christmas Story, and Jon Favreau are good friends, Favreau got him a cameo as the elf Ming Ming.
I'm a cotton-headed ninny muggins.
No, buddy, you're not a cotton-headed ninny muggins.
Now, I'm not sure to what extent Will Ferrell followed along with Buddy's diet.
We elves try to stick to the 4 main food groups: candy, candy canes, candy corns, and syrup.
But it was enough to where he was getting sugar rushes, headaches, and not a lot of sleep. Pretty much just like Buddy.
Did you sleep okay last night?
Great. I got a full 40 minutes.
And this scene, with the assortment of candy layered on top of the spaghetti, had to be shot twice, because he yacked it all up on the first go-round. Upon taking over as the director for Elf, Jon Favreau had 3 goals: make it look and feel like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, create a family movie, and turn it into a Christmas classic. We already went over how they altered the script to make it more family-friendly, and incorporated stop-motion elements like the Rankin and Bass specials. So last up was ensuring it became a classic for years to come. Obviously, there's only so much you can do, but in this regard, Favreau insisted on not relying on CGI, and instead using practical effects. The thought process being that special effects inevitably grow outdated, and practical effects are somewhat timeless. And perhaps the best example of this was in the use of forced perspective during the workshop sequences, which The Lord of the Rings has successfully pulled off just a couple years prior. When Buddy gets thrown out of the office building, one of the security guards is Will Ferrell's brother, Patrick Ferrell.
It's okay, Walter's my father.
Since 1861, people have visited Macys every holiday season to experience the wonder of Santa Claus. Thus, in the planning stages of Elf, they approached Macys asking permission to use their store in the film. And while it seems like a no-brainer for the exposure alone, they said no for the simple reason that the story called for a fake Santa, which they felt would destroy the illusion for kids.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Did you ever notice how the manager's name tag reads Wanda? I know you can't judge a book by its cover, but Faison Love certainly doesn't strike me as a Wanda. So it's not all too shocking the name tag originally wasn't his. Wanda Sykes was set to take on the role of the manager before dropping out at the last minute. So after coming in to save the day, Love requested to wear the name tag they'd already created.
6-inch ribbon curls, honey.
That's impossible.
6 inches.
This goes on for around another 10 seconds, making it a very impressive burp. And while you might assume that Will Ferrell just got really good at belching, this work of art was created by professional burper Maurice LaMarche, if there is such a thing, best known for voicing the burps in the Animaniacs song. LaMarche divulged how it's actually all a ruse, as what you think is a burp is in fact just a sound effect he's making with his mouth. Whenever Jon Favreau's directing a film, there's a good chance he's in the movie as well. Case in point, his role as Happy in Iron Man and Carl in Chef. When it came to Elf, he made 2 appearances, one as the voice of Mr. Narwhal, and the second as the Doctor. Buddy's fight with the mall Santa was one of the more memorable scenes in Elf, and they only had one chance to get it right due to the massive amount of destruction it called for. In order to balance out the eccentric Buddy, Favreau had to find someone who could pull off a highly unsympathetic character in Walter, and James Caan, famous for playing Sonny Corleone in The Godfather, was the obvious choice. And while he generally had no problem playing the role of the deadpan father against the comedic genius of Will Ferrell, Dad! Even Caan found it difficult at times to not burst out laughing. The best example being in this scene, where he had to turn his back to the camera to hide his laughter.
Well, paint eggs, that's easier.
here's something unexpected. Many of the film's interior shots, like Walter's apartment, the department store, and even the jail cell, were all built in an abandoned insane asylum called Riverview Hospital. In terms of the casting choices, the studio was basically in agreement with all of them except one. After taking one look at Mark Atkinson, the powers that be said. In the script, he says he's 26.
I'm 26 years old, I got nothing to show.
You're young. You're so young.
He doesn't look 26. And Favreau responded with, "I can't believe I have to say this, but that's literally the joke." As Elf came out in 2003, The Lord of the Rings was in its heyday and Favreau was a big fan. So in reference to the film, he modeled the Central Park Rangers after the ring race, and even copied the chase scene. The following shot of a wild buddy roaming the woods of Central Park is a callback to this famous Bigfoot sighting. Nowadays, physical DVDs are a relic of the past, yet there was once a time where they actually meant something, and the DVD for Elf may have been one of the most loaded ones ever created. First up, how cool is the children's pop-up book menu? Then of course, there's all the behind-the-scenes info, deleted scenes, a feature that lets you see the script alongside the movie, Elf Karaoke, 4 mini-games, and to top it all off, the progress bar is a candy cane. Before hiring someone to play Jovi, Jon Favreau had the following idea. He wanted to cater to whoever got the part, and infuse their character with something they were personally good at. For example, one actress they considered was an excellent skateboarder, and while I assume Zooey Deschanel can't skateboard for shit, they quickly found out she was a very talented singer.
Well, maybe just a half a drink more.
Lucky for them, as singing is no doubt much more cinematic than skateboarding, and as a result, they added in a couple extra scenes to show off her voice. At the end of the film, Buddy and Jovi get married and give birth to a daughter named after his mother, Susan Wells.
He was very young with a beautiful girl named Susan Wells.
After working together on Elf, Will Ferrell gave James Caan a gift with a note attached that read, "Great working with you. The first one is a bit slow, but the second two are really good." And the gift was the Godfather Trilogy, the joke being that Caan only stars in the first movie. Great news, there's going to be an Elf 2. Just kidding, it's never gonna happen, at least not with Will Ferrell, as he turned down an offer for $29 million and put the kibosh on any chance of a sequel. He explained his reasoning as, "I just think it would look slightly pathetic if I try to squeeze back into elf tights as Buddy, the middle-aged elf." Add on to this that Ferrell and Favreau didn't really get along on set. I suppose it was never meant to be.
Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color?
Although we're never getting an Elf 2 starring Will Ferrell, Scott Armstrong, the screenwriter behind Old School, completed a script around 2005 that never saw the light of day. It opens with Buddy, now a successful children's author, moving out of New York to the suburbs with Jovi and their 10-year-old daughter Susie. The change brings about new experiences for Buddy, like encountering neighborhood speedwalkers and trying to order from a drive-thru without a car. The crux of the story, though, centers on Buddy and Susie's relationship. Susie, who once viewed her dad as fun and cool, grows up and realizes that wearing an elf costume and dragging her to school on a sled is actually pretty weird. Things come to a tipping point after he embarrasses her on Bring Your Dad to School Day, causing Buddy to make several changes, including dressing more normally, eating a regular diet, and even taking on a new name in Brian. He also takes on more adult hobbies, like entering and quickly exiting an adult bookstore, playing racquetball with golf spikes, and joining a poker game and unwittingly psyching out the other players by building a castle with his chips. It's all for naught though, as his continuous blunders leave him the target for ridicule and alienate him further from Susie. And then, out of nowhere, Papa Elf gets kidnapped by Cole Kringle, basically evil Santa. Leon the Snowman alerts Buddy, who makes his way to Switzerland to convene with a global network of Santas at Christmas HQ. In the end, Buddy rescues Papa Elf, saves Christmas again, and wins back the favor of his daughter. Honestly, there's a lot of good elements to the script, and funny scenarios that could have been entertaining. But overall, the story is definitely weaker, and there's just too many things going on at once. Suffice to say, I'm glad it never got made. Thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. I've been thinking of doing this one for a couple years now, I just always get busy around the holidays, so glad I finally got around to doing it. Alright, till next time, have a great day everyone.